Welcome to everyone to today's show. Today I will be talking about YOLOBox updates. We are talking about both the YOLOBox Pro and the YOLOBox Ultra. There's been a lot of updates to both of them, and we're going to try to get through all of them and also answer your questions live. So that's today's show. We have both the YOLOBox Pro and the YOLOBox Ultra. And I have pages of notes here to help guide me through all the different changes. YOLO has been coming out with a lot of updates with these things, and then updates for the updates. You know, like one of the things that was in beta test was then changed on the actual release, and then people didn't like it, and then they changed it again. So there's a 5.0 and then a 5.1 update and things like that. So that is kind of what one of the things we're going to be covering today is the various updates for both the Pro and the Ultra. I'll go through the Pro and then I'll go over to the Ultra. There's a lot more to talk about with the Ultra, really cool stuff. So if we go kind of fast through the Pro, so if I bring monitor down, you see the monitor brings down your level here. Now technically it's still going out program, but you can't see it, and that's freaky. That's been fixed on the Ultra, still kind of working it out. So things work differently on different models, and that's not a good thing. Consistency is really key. Hopefully they can update this to work the way that does. But as of right now, turning down the monitor turns down the meter. So if I don't want to hear it so loud in my headphones, I can no longer see it. That's on the Pro. On the Ultra, you can see I can vary my monitor level, but the level meter still indicates that I've got loud audio there, which is good. Do not think that the minus is muting. It's not. What the mix minus is on the Ultra is it's an important feature when you are bringing in a remote guest so that you can be in the program, and when you hit minus, now you don't hear yourself. You're hearing the mix minus yourself or whatever that input is. But that is still part of program. That's the way it's supposed to work. And that's the way it does work. But it has been years begging for this to happen. Since the remote guest feature has been added, the mix minus actually makes remote guest feature usable. There is no mix minus on the Pro. You can still do remote guests, but there is no mix minus on the Pro to make that as usable. There's a workaround. It's kind of wonky, but there is a workaround, but it's not as this is the way it's supposed to work as mix minus, having a minus button on your input. Recent tests on the Pro show that the mic and line inputs have the same gain structure, and I've noticed a similar issue with the Ultra. Yes, I've actually seen the same as well. Interestingly though, the mic input does power an external microphone. So it does have the mic power, but I have fed line inputs into the mic to get like a slightly hotter signal, but there's not much difference between the two. I agree with you there. Hello, question. These YOLOBoxes still suffer from dropped frames, or are they smooth now? Thanks. My Pro still suffers from dropped frames. And it's only 60. The Pro has originally, years ago, it had 50p and 25p. And then to smooth out the frames, they focused on just 60 and 30 and released an update that supposedly says, nope, we're smooth now. And it has not been smooth. I still see doubled frames. The Ultra just received an update on my notes here. The Ultra, was it 250 or was it the 251 or was it just before that one? The 220, Ultra 220 supports 25 and 50. So the Ultra is more powerful, more capable. I don't work for YOLO, so I can't guarantee it's absolutely smooth. I can't concretely say they have ironed out all of the frame things. And then it also depends. How many devices are you using? How many inputs? Are you using all three USB inputs? Are you doing multiple NDIs? Are you doing, multiple remote callers? Does it have to process all this stuff? Are you doing everything at 4K? Then probably not going to do a full 60 frames per second. So, this from drop frames from 60, drop frames from 30, depending on how many inputs. I've got both the Pro and the Ultra here. I do have the Pro output right here, so we can see that. And I've got my notes. If you did not see it, there were a 5.3 update, which supported NDI. NDI is huge. So when you go to the Pro, you can see down here now, NDI, 1 NDI. And remember, the Pro is already kind of like at the limit. So you don't want to be doing like 3 HDMIs and a USB and, video clips and, overlays and remote guests and an NDI. You're going to like slog this thing down. And I did a video some time ago where I threw everything at the Pro, and I think I got it down to like 15 frames a second. That's what's going to happen. It's going to start, it can't process all those frames in real time. So it's going to start giving you less actual frames. It's going to hold a frame longer. You're going to have a frame for 2 frames, have a frame, hold it for 2 frames, have a frame, hold it for, that's what's going to happen when it can't process the frames. It can't catch up, but because it's video, it still needs to deliver a video. So it's just going to hold on to a frame, and you're going to get a lower frame rate. Sort of like watching film, which was 24 frames a second. But NDI, so you can click on the NDI. I haven't paid for it on this device. NDI is a paid license. And it's not a YOLO thing, it's an NDI thing. It's a license that they have to get from the NDI organization, which is created by NewTek, which is now Vizard. And you activate it per device. So if you activate NDI on your YOLOBox Pro, if I activate it on here, I can't also use it over here. If I activate it over here, I can't also use it. It's turned on. That feature is turned on in this device. If you don't need NDI, you don't need to pay for it. So this is why it's not automatically on. Not everybody needs it. Not everybody wants it. Not everybody has a good enough network to do it. So it's a capability that's in there for those people who want to add that on. I have an OBSBot over here, and in order to use NDI on the OBSBot, I had to pay to turn it on the OBSBot. Because if you don't need it, the OBSBot still works as a camera, HDMI, remote control, recording and streaming. It still does everything the OBSBot does. But for those people that need NDI, you can add that capability to the OBSBot and then be able to pull that in. So it has it activated. As you can see right here, I have the tail air, and I can turn that on, done. And that should come in as a source there. So you can see I'm pulling that in. And people often ask, what's the deal with NDI? Why? Now, I have several videos on this channel. There's an NDI basic intro. That's a good one to start with. It talks like what does it offer? And then more NDI, bit rates, licensing, full versus HX, gives you more the nuanced data. And I can tell you right now, one of the cool things is I have my OBSBot camera right there. And the cool thing with NDI is I added it without adding a wire. I have it over here. I can click to it, and I have it over here. So that camera, that one camera is going to 2 destinations magically, actually over the network. But that is what NDI gives you. NDI puts the camera feed on your local area network, your same Ethernet Wi-Fi network as everything else, and it makes it accessible to anything else on that network, multiple things on that network at the same time. Adding NDI to the Pro is very good. Then you had the 5.4 update, which supported recording files longer than 3.5 gigabyte. Now, this was a specific request for people who are doing really long shows. They don't want the YOLO to keep segmenting the files. And when you go into your settings over here and you're setting your recording limits, you can tell it to segment the file every 10 minutes, every 20 minutes, sort of for safety. So if something does crash, you at least have up to that last 10 minutes. Or if it's working great for you, you can say record continuously. But then the problem was you would hit a file size limit. Certain formats are limited to 4 gigabytes. And every 4 gigabytes, it'd have to chop it, segment a new file. It does that on my Panasonic GH4s. Even if I stick in an EXFAT, it still says 4, 4, 4, 4, and it drives me nuts. So if you say continuously, What they did with the 5.4 update is now continuously means continuously, but you have to format your media in NTFS, which is a window formatting. I think you can format your media on a Mac as NTFS, but it's primarily a Windows format. Web URL overlay optimization, 1080 size. Yes, they finally did fix this. So if I come into my overlays and I add a web URL overlay and I have a couple built on YOLOcast, I'm going to go get my baseline. Actually, I'm going to get this one, whatever, done. Now, it used to have horizontal and vertical and scale. Horizontal and vertical, I made lots of videos where they just didn't do anything. So now you can scale it, and you can move it. Problem solved. Problem solved. It now works like it makes sense. And you can enter a name so that if your content is really small and when it goes into the thumbnail, you can't read it, you can enter a name. But being able to just scale it to a size and say, oh, you know what? I want this over here. And then I'm going to put on auto hide after 10 seconds. Done. There. It works like you think it should work. And you bring up the title. There you go. There it is. You can see I'm switching underneath it and it went away by itself. It didn't fade out, interestingly enough. Let's bring it in again. There it is. It took a couple of seconds to fade in. 2, 1, and it cuts out. Interesting. It should fade out because it fades in. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. Maybe the frame rate has gone down, but more work to be done. Contact us in the account and settings, NDI instructional text update, and fix the crash issue. And then the 5.4.1 update. I mean, it's a point, but the thing that they added over here was the YOLO deck. Now, level up your experience. Let's configure the YOLO deck. I did a couple videos on the YouTube channel already about your YOLO deck, and all of that applies to this. So if you haven't already seen those videos and you're interested in adding the YOLO deck to your Pro, now that that's possible, I encourage you to go over there to that video where it says YOLO deck control surface. Go watch that video. It is 22 minutes long. Very good video. All the different things that you can do in the YOLO deck, but the actual process of adding your features. Let's go to YOLO deck. You can see over here on the right hand side, I have all these sources, 10 sources. I have start and stop replay, next page or last page in a PDF. Take my program to go full screen on the YOLO if I'm using that. Fade to black, switch to analog, audio follows video, on or off. Live streaming, program out, go live or pause live. I will say I do not recommend making this or this a button. I recommend against making these buttons because in my experience, so now I've hit the record button on the YOLO or on the YOLO deck and it started recording, and then it stopped recording. When you hit stop record on the YOLO, it asks you, are you sure? In case you accidentally touched it. But if you hit this button here, it doesn't ask you. It just goes away and stops recording. And if you weren't paying attention, if you were looking at the show and you were hitting buttons and you accidentally hit that stop record button, you've stopped recording or you've stopped streaming and you won't know it because you're watching the show and hitting the buttons. So I heartily recommend don't assign those things to buttons. Whereas if I'm on the YOLO itself and I hit record, I'm going to start recording. Okay, start recording. And then when I'm on the YOLO and I hit record again, did you want to stop recording? This is the alert that needs to appear whether you hit the little button or the screen. And right now it does not appear when you hit it on the YOLO deck. And that to me is, I would not put the button on the YOLO deck for fear that I accidentally hit it and accidentally stopped streaming or stopped recording by accidentally pushing that button or resting my hand or brushing against it or something like that. Yeah, not worth it to me. I don't need that sort of convenience. I'll do it on the YOLO box itself. What is the Pro NDI spec? I couldn't connect the iPhone test pattern app to open. The Pro said this input was too high resolution. I think it's just HD. And that is one of the things that on the Pro with NDI, they specifically say that don't use, if you're going to use H.264, you can get 1080p. If you're going to use the higher quality, which I guess is the lower bitrate, more heavily compressed version, QVC or whatever it is, and that takes more processing, so go with 720p so there's less bits. That's what they recommend. Is there a timing issue using NDI sources? Of course. Of course. There's always a timing issue. So, in addition to the HDMI, so I got my camera, it comes in, and in order to sync it, I need to rip the signal apart and re-put it back together again, and that takes 2 frames. NDI is a networked compressed video source. Even if it's full NDI, it's still compressed. And it hits the sensor, and then in the camera, it's being compressed, which takes time, and then gets sent across the network, which takes a couple milliseconds, and then it gets decompressed in whatever device. Doesn't matter. In whatever device you're using. So you've already lost a frame, maybe 2, in that process. Now it hits the video processor just like the HDMI camera, and then it has to be ripped apart and matched up and synced with the rest of the cameras. So you have NDI sources that are going to be a little bit behind your straight video. So if I ran an HDMI cable from my BirdDog and I took HX2 or 3 around the network, one's going around the block, one isn't. These YOLO boxes do not have the computing horsepower that a TriCaster or a vMix setup in a computer does. Those you can actually delay your straight in line feeds to match the delayed NDI feeds so they're all timing out together. But you can't do that in any of these all-in-one solutions yet. That was the only sheet I have on the YOLO box. The Ultra, you asked, we delivered the 2.2 update, supported 25 and 50 frames per second. So everyone that is not in the North America finally gets their 25 and 50 frames per second back with the 2.2 update for the Ultra. So yay. Supports web URL overlay with audio, smoother scrolling, text overlays, enhanced display for web URL overlays. Hey, you know what? Let's try that same thing that I did. Add web URL overlays, choose from YOLOcast. These are my overlays that I've got set up in my YOLOcast. And again, YOLOcast is free right now. It's free for anyone who has a YOLO box. You have a YOLO account that gets you into creating web graphics on YOLOcast. So it's free. And here we can see, yes, it has the same update, so I can scale it, and yes, it's appearing the proper width, yay, and I can move it around, and look at that. That actually looks really sweet. Auto hide, I can turn on my auto hide. It's interesting that the duration was always visible, whereas I had to actually turn auto hide on, and then it appeared over here, but regardless, this is great. So now I've got my little scrolling title. Let's just say, leave it done. And then I could turn that on and tap, 2, 3, there it goes. And it actually zipped on, I guess. So there we have that. And if I take this full screen, you'll see that a little bigger. And if I take the Ultra like this, you'll see it even bigger. So there's my lower third. Drag function in the overlay section. Yes, so drag function. So if something is in the wrong order, like I wanted this higher, you can hold that and then drag it around and put it up there. So that's good. Auto hide features for comments. Yes, that was if you're doing comments, you can come up here. They're still working on this. That's a new bug where the username is not in color. Let me go back in here. So I'll choose this one. And now at the bottom, you've got auto hide. So you can bring up a comment and after 10 seconds, it'll fade out by itself, which is something that I actually really like. I really like this a lot. And for comments in my show, these live shows, what I'm using Restream because it's actually pulling in 6 different places. And that's great. I appreciate that feature, but it doesn't have auto hide. So there's been times when I've just talking, and that comment is just sitting there and I forget to turn it off. Auto hide is great. Video source optimizations, up to 5 local video sources. That's awesome. And a pause function for local videos. So you can come in here. I can say, let me get my video. Well, actually, let me do this countdown. I like the countdown. Done. And then I can bring that up. And there it is, playing. Hard to see because of the graphic that I chose. But along the bottom edge here, there's a little play, and there's a progress bar. So I can scoot that baby along to wherever I want to. Oh, can you skip to like 4 minutes in? Yes, I can. Not easily, but I can. And then hit play, and there you go. So you can play and pause and talk about something. That's really nice. Although I bet you it's still going to be subject to, when I come out of it, pause when switching, resume first frame. So if I do cut away from the video, it's going to jump back to 15. So that is still going to override the fact that you paused it, but when you cut away from it, it's going to jump back to the beginning because you told it to. So there's a lot of settings in these devices. You know, if you have one of these devices, spend hours going through every single setting, figuring out what it does. Because there's so many times people post in their group, I can't figure out how to, and everybody's like, go to your gear icon, go to this setting. How do I get program out? You go to this icon and you turn on program out. And then after 2.2, 2.4 came out on the Ultra. NDI output supports resolution and frame rate selection. Oh, let's try that. There's 25, there's 30, there's 50, there's 60. So there you go. And 720p and 1080p. So that is going to be very handy for people everywhere else in the world that are not in the North American market that deals with 30 and 60. Improved touchscreen responsiveness, especially in the audio mixer. Yes, touchscreen on the, it's actually like first try I'm getting these things. There was definitely a time there where they tweaked this. They tweaked the ability to customize your menu down here. And if you'll notice that this menu and this menu don't match at the bottom. On the Pro, this is the way they delivered it. You can't change it. So you have bonding as your first icon. And if you're not using bonding, like I'm not, that icon is always in the way. I'm never going to use it, yet it's the first icon all the time. Technically, bonding should be a setting because you're going to set it once and then you never need to adjust the bonding while you're doing a show. I don't know why it needs to be up there along with, here's my titles, here's my audio mixing, and things like that, but it is. So what I did over here on the Ultra is I have it set for titles is the first thing I need to do. Comments would be the second thing. Audio mixing is the third thing. I can invite guests. Here's my sports scoreboard. And then I've moved everything else after the gear icon that I consider a setting. And a setting to me is something that I set once, and then once I do my show, I never touch it. It's not something I'm going to need to touch during a show. It's a setting. So over here is my gear settings, my stream destinations. I'm not changing those during the show. Replay. If I'm going to do replay, I set it up and it does it. I don't need to change my replay settings during a show. You know, if I'm going to use auto switch, I set it up, start it, it's going. Same with bonding and same with how I'm recording. So all of those I consider settings. So I've moved those to the right, and it's super simple. You just press, hold, and then you can move these around just like that. Let me put this down so that I can make that shot a little bigger. Let's go to the Ultra. I'm going to press and hold, and then you can see that I'm just dragging that around to where I want it. So if comments are more important to you, you can put comments first. If overlays are more important, so overlays and comments when I do these shows are the most important thing. I need those to be right there, the first two things. Whereas on the Pro, you can see here is my overlays, but where's my comments? Oh, I have to move this over here to get to my user comments. Oh, now I want to do an overlay. Well, now I have to move it back to get to my that's just stupid. Here's your scoreboard, overlay, scoreboard, overlay, scoreboard, comment, back and forth, back and forth. So on the Ultra, hey, I want my scoreboard because I'm doing this game. I'm going to put that right here. And those are the three things I need to touch directly. And with the YOLO deck, you can put the scoreboard on here, so that's another added advantage there. added multiple image sources. So that's been a very, like, I don't know why that wasn't there before, but being able to say, oh, I'm going to need this, done. And it brings them all in. So when I bring in image 1, it's not image 1. It is all those things that I tapped on, so that when I go there and I bring this up, you see there, I've got 1 through 5 in the bottom corner right there. So I'm able to, and with the YOLO deck, I'm able to go through those stills, skip to the front, skip to the back. I'm able to go through those stills, and you can have multiple stacks. So you can have 5 different stacks, and each of those stacks can include multiple images, like like a PowerPoint, like a PDF, but now you can have stacks of images. USB output now supports 60 frames a second. Preview frame rate now supports 60 frames per second. That's the frame rate down here. People were complaining that I can't really see what's going on down here at the bottom because the frame rate's so low and the USB frame rate is still low. But the frame rate coming in from these is much smoother than normal. So that's been tweaked a little bit. So the frame rate of these previews down the bottom are faster. Vertical mode now supports RTMP. Horizontal mode now supports HLS streaming. Web URL overlay supports up to 3 different URLs at once, only one with audio. So you can have multiple sources for your web URL graphics. Overlay locking in multi-view. Yay! Okay, this is a feature that I have been one of those people that have asked about it. I said, listen, if I'm doing a side-by-side and I've got me and the thing that I'm talking about done, and I've got this thing sized with the background and all this nice stuff done, I want to be able to lock. That's probably not going to work. Oh, wait, bring it up first. I want to be able to, yeah, there's no lock on that one. This one has a lock. So that one is now locked on there. So if I click away and click back to it, the overlay has a graphic attached to it. So that is cool. However, it seems like it's limited to, like if I bring this graphic in, I can't lock that one. If I bring a timer, can't lock a timer. If I want to bring a web graphic, I can't lock a web graphic. So it's still kind of limited in terms of what I'm going to be able to lock to a multi-view. Being able to lock something is good. I would like to be able to lock more things. 2.5 supports PTZ control. So I showed that a little bit before. What you do is you press and hold on the gear icon, PTZ control. Oh, we just tap it. Here I am. PTZ control, connecting. There I am. And now I can control that camera, and I can zoom in, I can zoom out, and then there's a speed, low, slower, fast, zoom in, zoom out. And supposedly if I hit press, edit, update, and I go to P1, nope, I go to P2, go to P3. So maybe I just need to reboot because I just installed this. I just redid this one today and it's not working. But someone in the comments says the presets up to 5 are working for them. It's just not working for me right now when I try to do the demo. Support customized multi-view. That is something that I know a lot of people have asked for. Customized over here on the bottom right, you see where it says new with that bright yellow thing? Customized. So you can add a source. Oh, that looks familiar. That's a page out of the Magewell design right there. Can I choose multiple? Oh no, I'm just choosing one. Okay, done. And then I can size it. I can crop it. There you, oop, no, free. Thank you. There we go. Save. And then I can size that and move it where I want to. And then move it up and down in a layer. Say I want something else. Choose a source. I want to choose a background. Well, I wanted to choose a still image. And then I want to move that back. I want to make this bigger to cover the whole frame. This box, I want to add a border. There's no border yet. I want to add a drop shadow. I want to round the edges. This is the Magewell Director Mini has got a few advantages here because you can see In this one, I've got a rounded edge, I've got the border and everything. These are all being created in the Magewell that has this kind of same look. But, what's that? Ah, there we go. So I can pull backgrounds. So here's a background. Image, video, official templates, okay, or from my SD card. Good, I can pull things from my SD card. Ooh, I wonder if I can pull moving backgrounds. That would be kind of cool. So let me select this layer and trash it, delete. There is my moving background with a picture-in-picture. Yeah, I just want to see if it's going to work. And then I bring it up, and there it is. So it's an animated GIF background. Bring that out. So you can see that background and just an animated GIF background. You can get that throwback there and run stuff on top of it. That's pretty cool. And then put an animated GIF over top. Yay! So very customized. Looking forward to more features with that, especially borders. Because when you go to the side by side like this, one of the, it really having a border, I think really looks better than not having a border. Because if you take this same input and you say no border, done. I don't know. It just doesn't look it doesn't look as good without some sort of border around the various sources. So custom is great. I appreciate, and applaud being able to give users the ability to go in there and, make whatever you want to make. But at the same time, without at least borders on these sources, let alone, some way to differentiate them a little bit. I think that is going to, looking forward to the next update to the customized multi-view. And optimize the built-in scoreboard templates. So let's go over here to scoreboard, pick one. So they look pretty good. And then, of course, like always, when you go to the scoreboard styling, you could, add things, font, background color, text color, background, game logo, period, background color. Add the time, add a countdown timer. I don't know where that's actually not going anywhere. Oh, there it is, time at the bottom. Let me see if I turn it off. Yeah, time is going back at the very bottom of that. Let me make that bigger. So you can see at the very bottom down here, it's adding the time. So that's actually pretty cool, pretty nice looking graphic. And of course, there's more graphics at the web graphics that are provided through YOLO, your YOLOcast. And that is a way that you can have more choices and you can even build your own. Now, whether the YOLO deck actually works with the custom web graphics, I don't know. And I'm going to guess no. But that would be very interesting because you'd have to tell the cloud to change it as opposed to talking to the device itself. And then the 2.5.1 update is the last sheet I have. PTZ Control Entry Optimization. And that comes from people who are doing the beta. PTZ Control, it's right here. Having it only available up here meant you had to bring the source into program in order to get that icon. Whereas if I go to a different camera, it's not there. So being able to now access it down on the gear icon, I'm going to tap the gear icon, you see PTZ Control. I can then go in there, it'll connect to the camera, and then I can tap those presets and it'll, in my case, not move. But other people say, works fine. So maybe I just need to reboot. I'm not going to reboot right now. I'm in the middle of a show. It took me a while to print out all these different pages from all these different notes for all these different updates. And one thing I would love to see YOLO do is on the blog, top of the support, is to have a change log. Another comment comes in. Does PTZ Control work with a camera connected via HDMI? No. If you noticed when I do the camera control, when I go to control a camera, let me move this comment. And I click on that, and it says PTZ Control. It's asking for the URL address, so it has to be accessible via the network. Some of the really cool things that have been going on with the YOLO with the recent updates, a lot of capabilities. Still, some things need to be refined and updated to be more usable, to work better. I look forward to more competition, because who benefits when there's more competition? We do. Gone are the days when you release a product and you're just like, it's out, it's done, forget it. Nowadays we expect that something's going to come out, and if there's something that could be done better, tweaked, updated, it's going to happen. We expect our products to get better over time. So that's pretty cool. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And like I says, in the description, there's a Patreon. If you find these things are helpful to you, sign up, become a member. My name is Anthony Barocas. I thank you all for being here, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching.